right, so we're continuing in section 7.2 where we're talking about inverse functions. And now we want to be able to find the equation of an inverse function given the function. So to do this algebraically, there's 4 steps that we can follow to get there. First, when we're given our equation, we have f of x equals 3x plus 4. So we're just going to replace that f of x with a y and rewrite it. Then we'll switch our x and y. Then we're going to solve our equation for y. And then last, we're going to replace that y with the inverse of f of x notation. And then we'll have the equation of our inverse of f of x. All right, let's try that using those steps on this next one. So our first step, remember, is we're going to change that f of x to y. I'm going to have y equals 3x minus 1 all divided by 4. Then let's switch our x and y. I'm going to have x equals 3y minus 1 all divided by 4. Then we need to solve for y, so let's first multiply both sides by 4 so that we can get rid of that denominator over here. That's going to leave us with 4x equals 3y minus 1. So let's add 1 over to the other side, giving us 4x plus 1 equals 3y. And then to get y by itself, we need to divide by 3. 3's divide out. And then our last step after we solve it for y is now we're going to change that y to that inverse function notation so that we know that this is in fact the inverse of that function that we found. So we'll have the inverse of f of x equals 4x plus 1 all divided by 3. And that will be your answer. Now let's look at problem 9. Use the graph of f of x equals 4x minus 2 to sketch graph of its inverse. And then we're going to validate our graph by finding the equation of the inverse. So let's first look at the points that we can find on that f of x graph. So I plotted some points on here that I could tell were these exact points. The ordered pairs 2, 6, 1, 2, 0, negative 2, negative 1, negative 6. And I also wrote them over here. Now, keep in mind when I'm changing this to its inverse, I'm switching the x and y values. So now my points, my ordered pairs that I'll come up with for my inverse function are 6, 2, 2, negative 1, negative 2, 0, and negative 6, negative 1. So now let's graph that on the grid. All right, so there they are. Plotted those points, connected those together to find that line. And then I can see also that it is an inverse. They are inverses of each other because remember, if I have the line y equals x, these are going to be reflected over that line. All right, last thing we need to do is validate our graph by finding the equation of the inverse. So let's go ahead and start off with our f of x equals 4x minus 2. And now we are going to find the inverse function of that. So we'll have y equals 4x minus 2. Then we need to switch our x and y. So x equals 4y minus 2. Now let's solve this for y. Let's add 2 over so we can get y by itself. So I have x plus 2 equals 4y. And now I need to divide by 4 to isolate that y. And now that I have y by itself, I can rewrite that y as the inverse function notation. So I'd have the inverse of f of x equals x plus 2 all over 4. Hopefully that helps you understand inverse functions, how to find them in these different ways we've talked about.